This is Mrs. Tamika Boramming with another Keyboarding Proofreaders Marks Nugget practice activity. Let's practice using Proofreaders Marks. As the typist, it is your job to correct the following paragraph. In the first line, there are 3 errors. Do you see them? Good job! The first correction is insert space. The second correction is insert the letter D. And the third correction is close up space. In the second line, there are 2 errors. Do you see them? Good job! The first error is move to the left. The second error is delete the letter O. In the third line, there is 1 error. Do you see it? Good job! The correction is uppercase the letter H. In the fourth line, there are 2 errors. Do you see them? Good job! The first correction is transpose. And the second correction is to lowercase. Now let's read our corrected paragraph. Just how well do you adjust to change? Recognize that change is as certain to come as night turns to day. You cannot avoid change, but you can adjust to it. How quickly you do this is one indication of your likely success in the world ahead. Proofreaders Marks. It's that simple.
Get into today's topic. Today's topic is types of conflicts. And let's look at the objectives. Objective number 1, review what is conflict, what a conflict is, define different types of conflicts, critique your peers' conflicts. And so that's the 3 things we're going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at what a conflict is, we're going to define different types of conflicts, and then we're going to critique. That means look at your peers' conflicts. So you're going to be looking at your own writing today. Last class, you wrote for Miss Brown, and I actually chose some of those pieces for us to discuss in this lesson. So isn't that exciting? So we're going to, number 1, review what is conflict. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We're here to tell you all about the word conflict.
Conflict!
Right, conflict. You guys ready to show conflict?
Ready!
Okay, here we go. The 2-headed monster showing us conflict.
Bagaimana jiki Kosovo? Oh, ikete mo order bado.
Time out, guys.
What?
I'm not sure you understand. We need to show everyone conflict.
Conflict!
Right, I'm afraid that wasn't conflict.
No conflict.
No, you see, a conflict is when 2 people fight or disagree about something, and they have a conflict.
Oh, conflict!
Okay, great.
Conflict!
Try again. Here we go. The 2-headed monster is now going to show us conflict. Take 2.
What is it? Mine.
But as of now, he says is his. That's a promising start.
Mine.
The same flower. This could be some conflict.
Share?
Oh, they're sharing. Stop.
What?
Look, that was very nice. That was lovely, actually. You were sharing. It warms the cockles of my buttons and my fuzzy 2-headed friend. That was not conflict.
No conflict.
No conflict.
What
I'm just sorry, it wasn't. Wait, I just realized something. We disagree. We're arguing about something.
So?
We're having a conflict.
Conflict?
Conflict.
Okay. So that was a video about conflict. Based on that, what do you think a conflict is? Based on that video. What is a conflict? They're trying to be nice, they still end up having conflicts, okay? So let's look at what a conflict is. A conflict is simply a problem. So in the two pictures to the left and right, we have persons with conflict. And especially to the right, we have someone sniffing another person's hair. That's totally not something you would want to happen to you. That's a conflict. And on the left, we have two persons who are looking like they're about to fight. Do you have any conflicts or problems in your life? Do you have?
Yes, they do.
Okay, very good. So what are some student conflicts? What are some problems that students may have in school?
Fight.
Very
in
good.
School, work, bullying. Most persons are saying bullying and fights, hating one another for better grades. Somebody said the homework, no pencil.
Okay, awesome. So this is an example, and bullying is number one. And it's amazing that you said the same thing. And this is an example of bullying. Lucas tells Damien, your shoes are fake. They look like they came from the garbage can. Now, isn't that terrible? That's totally an example of bullying. Okay, so that's an example of a conflict that a child may have in real life. And then we have difficult schoolwork. Do you have difficult work at school? Or you have a lot of work to do now with the virtual school?
A lot of them were saying, yes, schoolwork, a lot of work is conflict.
Very good. So Micaiah and George were arguing about a group project. They couldn't agree on which animal to pick. And a lot of times when you have a group project, persons can't agree. Do you like group work?
No, they don't like group work. Just a few persons are saying yes, but the majority say no.
So that it is something that most people don't like to do, but it is a skill you need for life, because a lot of times you have to work with other people, but it still causes conflict. So rejection is another type of conflict that happens a lot in schools among students. This happens when you think someone is your friend, but they don't treat you like the friend you are to them. And let's look at the example. Kyla tells Melody that she can't sit with her on the bus because she is saving the seat for someone else. Now, do you catch the bus?
Most do, sometimes.
Now, I know on a lot of family islands, they do not have a bus, and your parents will drop you to school or you will walk to school. But can you imagine that if you get on a bus with your best friend and your best friend tells you you can't sit on the side of her because she has that seat saved for another friend? Would you be happy or would you be sad?
They would be sad. They wouldn't be happy.
Okay, so that's another.
I might cry, somebody says.
Oh, exactly. So that is another type of conflict, rejection. Now, why is it important to understand conflicts? Conflicts make your story more interesting. Last class, you were writing for Miss Brown, and she was teaching you for about 2 weeks now how to create an exciting story. And I was teaching you things to help you with your story as well. One of the major things you need to put in your story is a conflict. Without a conflict, your teacher's going to look, with a conflict, your teacher's going to look like this. They're going to be excited to see your story. So when you hand in your work, they're going to be like, wow, what a great piece. Now, without a conflict, your story would be boring. No one likes to read a boring story. And this is an example of a teacher who's reading the stories of students that really don't have a good conflicts and it's really boring. Now, would you want your teacher to be A, excited, or B, bored with your work?
A.
Okay, so all of you said A, you need to know how to include exciting conflicts. So we have a student here and she is on her way to school. And we're going to look at a story without a conflict. It was a lovely day. Brenda woke up feeling great. She got up smiling and ate her breakfast smiling because she was such a good girl. She washed the dishes and hugged her mom before leaving the house smiling. Then she went to school smiling and ate her lunch smiling. At the end of the day, she did her homework smiling and then went to bed. And what do you think? She was smiling. It was another awesome day for smiling Brenda. Tomorrow, we expect her to be smiling even more. So this is a story. It's interesting, but it has no conflict. So what could I possibly write tomorrow? I will be writing the same thing because she's just going to be always smiling. So now let's look at an example of a story with a conflict. So we have this character here, and she definitely has some sort of a problem, okay? And her name is Brenda as well. It was a lovely day. Brenda woke up feeling great. She got up smiling and ate her breakfast, knowing today would be a better day. Today, as she brushed her teeth, she made a plan to take revenge upon the bully that terrorized her all year. Today, she smiled wickedly as she entered her school, knowing that Brad the bully wasn't going to steal her lunch anymore. After she finished with Brad, she knew she'd be smiling forevermore. Now, which one of these stories do you think is the most interesting? Do we go with Smiling Brenda or Revenge Brenda?
B. Everybody's saying the second one.
Okay, so you could have a nice story. You can write a story with many words without any errors, and it'd still be a boring story because without a problem, no one's going to really be interested in a story that's happy throughout the entire plot. So this is an example of a better story. Everybody wants to know how Brenda is going to take revenge on Brad. What do you think Brenda's going to do? How is she going to take revenge upon Brad?
Okay, somebody says take his lunch, beat him up. Most persons are saying steal his lunch, prank him, and beat him up. Tell the teacher or prank him.
Okay, awesome answers. So you're interested in this and you would want to know what's going to happen next in this story. Objective number 2, to find different types of conflicts. There are 5 types of conflicts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to teach you 5 new terms to define conflict. Types of conflicts. First of all, the first 2 words is a conflict could be internal. That's a problem that happens inside the person. And a conflict can be external. That's when you have a problem outside. And we're going to go into greater detail on these 2 words. What is internal conflict? Internal conflicts are problems that occur inside the character. This happens when a character has a problem within himself or herself. Now, those of you who may be writing, you can always go back to this presentation and copy the notes, or you can screenshot as well. But to repeat to you, an internal conflict is when a character has a problem inside of themselves. So let's look at this example. What do you think is wrong with this young man, this puppy? What is his problem? What is his internal conflict?
Okay, he's angry.
Why do you think he's angry?
Most of them are saying he's angry, he's mad, he's a madman, he is on 2 legs, he's upset. Why is he upset?
Why is he upset?
He has no food. Nobody gave him food. He's not fed. Alyssa says he is not fed, or Ashton says there is no food.
Excellent. So if you look, his bowl is empty. Now, if you have a pet and you put the bowl there and there's no food in it, your pet would not be smiling with you. And so very good answers. He is hungry. And so his internal problem is that he's hungry on the inside. He doesn't have a problem with anybody else. He has a problem with how he feels inside. You know, when you're hungry, your belly might hurt. You may have a headache, a series of different problems. And so that's an example of an internal problem. Now, a conflict could also be about how you feel about yourself. He thinks he's ugly. Do you think he's ugly?
Okay, most of them are saying no, but we have a couple yeses.
Okay, so he sometimes you may think that there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. You are perfect. But the things that we don't like about ourselves on the inside, that is internal conflict. Okay? So now let's look at what is external conflict. External conflicts are problems that occur outside of the character. This happens when a character has a problem with someone or something else. So for example, I cannot bring honey into this house because Mr. Brown keeps stealing my honey. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. He doesn't want me to tell you his business. I have to hide all the cookies. I can't tell you where I have them hidden, but I have to hide them because in the night, Mr. Brown is all around the place, walking, looking for food. So that's an example of an external problem. So I have a problem with Mr. Brown stealing my food. In this picture, there is an external conflict. What do you think is happening in this picture? What did I say, Miss Brown? What is the conflict in this picture?
Okay, can you repeat? It just broke. The signal just dropped.
Okay, in this picture, you have two animals, a cat and a mouse. And the cat is holding the mouse. What do you think is the conflict, the external conflict in this picture?
Okay, there's bullying. Tom and Jerry are fighting. They are enemies. They are fighting. He wants to eat the mouse. He wants to catch the mice.
Very good. So the mouse is saying, I am not your lunch. So clearly the cat is trying to eat the mouse, and he's been doing that for years. So for you and for me and probably our parents, we all have watched Tom and Jerry, and so far he has not eaten the mouse yet. Praise God. Okay, what are the types of conflicts in the pictures below? So we have picture A. Is this an internal conflict or an external conflict? What is happening in this picture?
In Genesis says internal, Haley, external, both of they are mixed. They are saying internal and they are saying external.
Okay, so let me give you the clue. I tried to stop, but I can't stop myself from eating honey. I have no self-control. So an internal problem is when you have a problem with yourself. An external problem is when you have a problem outside of yourself with someone or something else. Is this problem internal or external?
Most persons are saying internal now.
Okay, very good. So to explain to you again, an internal conflict is when you have a problem inside. Mr. Brown can't stop eating the honey. He can't control his own self. And so if you don't have self-control, that's an internal conflict. Whatever it is, that problem you may have with yourself. Some of you may like to do more schoolwork, but every time you start to work, you fall asleep. That's an internal conflict. You are lazy, okay? Or you need to push yourself more. So very good, that's internal conflict. So let's look at this example. What do you think is happening in this picture? What is happening in this picture?
Okay, the show Neon, they're saying cheating. They're saying the boy is cheating, doing work, copying. And they're saying it's external conflicts. The
Oh, you
boy on the left doesn't like the boy on the right, Genesis says.
very good. So let's look at the clue. Why is this boy looking at my answers? He is cheating. And you are so correct. That is an example of external conflict. So you did very good. So to repeat to you, an internal conflict is when you have a problem on the inside. And an external problem is when the character has a problem with something outside of himself, another character, or you can have a problem with something, another thing. Now, there's only one type of internal conflict, but when it comes to external conflict, there are many types. So we're going to look at the different types of external conflicts. An external conflict is when the character has a problem outside of himself. And there are many types, but I'm going to teach you 3 today. So far, the terms I taught you were external and internal. So now let's look at another term. We're going to learn what is character versus character conflicts, character versus nature conflicts, and character versus society conflicts. So these are 3 different types of external conflicts. The first one is character versus character conflicts. Versus means something that you are against. So character versus character conflict is when 2 persons have a problem with each other or 2 groups. And let's look at the definition. This occurs when 2 characters or 2 groups of characters struggle against each other. A school fight is an example of this type of conflict. Do you have a character versus character conflict in your life? Is there somebody that you don't like, or that person doesn't like you, or you're annoyed by the person?
Yes.
Okay, so this is character versus character. So to repeat to you again, I taught you an internal conflict. That's when the character has a problem within himself. Then I taught you external conflict. That is when a character has a problem on the outside. And now I'm teaching you one type of external problem or external conflict is when a character has a problem with another character. So Mr. Brown eating my honey is a character versus character conflict. The next type of external conflict is character versus nature. Now, what is nature? What is nature? Here we have this young man, and he's saying, I don't like this rain. What aspect of nature is he disliking? What doesn't he like?
Water, rain.
Very good. So this is a character versus nature conflict. This occurs when a character has a problem with nature. Nature includes things that are not man-made. Anything that's made by God are not man, like the weather, animals, land forms, stars, planets, and much more. All of those things are nature. So if a character has a problem with a hurricane, for example, what is the hurricane that caused a lot of problems for the Bahamas, the last hurricane? What was it called?
And the first answer is from Alison Dorian.
Very good. So Dorian is an example of character versus nature conflict, okay? And so that's an example. Now, what's happening now with the virus is debatable. If it was man-made, then it would not be nature. But if it's a natural thing for it to happen in life, then it'll be a nature conflict. But we're not sure how it started. So this is another example of a character versus nature conflict. And I have a question for you. Did you ever get wet in the rain going to or from school? Did you ever get wet in the rain going to school or coming from school?
Dion says yes, and then everybody else is saying yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was it a good feeling? Did you enjoy getting wet? Your shoes being wet, your hair being wet. Did you enjoy it? Or was it terrible? Was it awful?
They're saying not at all. Rihanna says no, not at all. The shoes got wet as well.
So that was a terrible thing. Even teachers get wet going to classes sometimes when it rains. And so this is a character versus nature conflict that unfortunately we all had to face in the school environment. Now, what is a character versus society conflict? What is a society? I have to ask you before I show you the answer. What is a society?
People, civilization. That's from Gerardo and Alyssa. Veronique says a group of people. The people around, Vanessa says.
Very good. So the people around make up the society. And in every society, sometimes the whole island or a whole group of people or a whole school may have a problem with the one character, or the one character may have a problem with everybody else. That's a character versus society conflict. So here we have an example of a character versus society conflict. This young lady is clearly upset, and the persons behind her, they don't want her with them. Why is that the case? These men would not let her in their meeting because she's different. How does this conflict exist in school? And before you answer, let me define what is a character versus society conflict. This conflict happens when a character goes against the entire community, or everyone in the society goes against the character. So first of all, why do you think they're not allowing this young lady in their meeting? Why is she not allowed in their meeting?
Because she is a girl, it's a boys' club.
Very good, very good. She wants to go to the meeting, but it's not for her, it's only for boys. And so this is an example of a character versus society conflict. Now, in schools, we tend to treat some people differently because they're different from us. And that's a character versus society conflict as well. If everybody's treating one person different, do we have any examples of that in school?
Definitely, yes, we do.
Unfortunately, that's something that happens across the entire world. And one of the things we don't like to talk about is the way we treat foreigners. We're supposed to treat everybody the same. And if someone is different from us, we tend to treat them not as well as we'll treat people who are the same as us. And it's natural for persons to feel comfortable with persons who are like them. But we want to make sure we are not being prejudiced. That's the word that comes out when we look at character versus society. A society can be prejudiced. So if you dislike somebody because of their color of their skin, because of their nationality, which country they came from, because if they're boy or girl, because you may think they're ugly, all of these things are character versus society conflict if the entire society is treating the person bad.
Ricardo,
or treat a society of people different because they came from someplace else or because they are a different skin color or something different from you. So now let's look at our objectives for the day. Number 3, critique your peers' conflicts. And to critique means that you're going to look at it, notice the persons in the picture, they're looking deeply and reading carefully, and they're going to discuss what is good and what is bad about what they're reading. So that's what you're going to do. When you're critiquing something, you're looking at it and you're examining what's good and what's bad about it. First, now before we go into it, let's review the different types of conflicts. There are 5 words I taught you. The first 2 was internal and external. An internal conflict is a conflict that happens inside of the character. Think of the puppy that was hungry. Then external conflicts are problems that happen outside of the character. And I taught you 3 types of external conflicts. The first one I taught you was character versus character. That is when the character has a problem with another character. Okay, think of fights in school. That's an example. The next one is character versus nature. Think of Hurricane Dorian. Anytime you have a problem with something outside or something man-made, that's character versus nature. Think of the man standing in the rain or you getting wet going to and from school. And the 5th term that I taught you was character versus society. That's an example when the society doesn't like the one person, or the one person doesn't like the society. And one of the things we don't like to talk about is Bahamians not liking persons of different cultures. And we tend to treat sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we tend to be not as nice to persons on the outside. That's a character versus society conflict. So to repeat again, the terms are internal, external, internal, external, character versus character, character versus nature, and character versus society. So those are the 5 terms I'm teaching you today. Now, before we get into it, I have to tell you a surprise. We are going to critique our own work. So yesterday you wrote paragraphs for Miss Brown when you were discussing how to create the climax for your plot, okay? And I copied 4 of those paragraphs, and we're going to look at it today. So Ashley, are you here today, Ashley? This is your paragraph. And you're going to critique Ashley's paragraph. Remember, we're going to look at what's good about it and what's bad about it, and we're going to discuss conflicts. We're going to critique her use of conflict in a paragraph. And
Yes.
I have awesome, Ashley. I want you to clap for Ashley for writing such a wonderful paragraph. So let's look at the question top. What type of conflict is created in this paragraph? And how could the writer make this conflict more exciting? So let's read it, and I want you to tell me what type of conflict this is. The words are internal, external, character versus character, character versus nature, and character versus society. And this is from Ashley. They checked behind the bushes to see if it was Spot, but he was not there. It was only a skunk, and because he was startled, he sprayed them. Then they turned around and they saw Spot covered in soil. They ran up to him. Okay, and the clues we have here is a skunk that sprayed them, and that Spot was covered in soil. For the first one, I underlined the clues for you, but the others, you have to find the clues on your own. So, what type of conflict is this?
Okay, Abigail says external conflict. Hune says it's character versus nature. External, character versus nature. And then the majority is saying nature, external, and more active.
Very good. She could have described the skunk. What word could she have used to describe the skunk? It was only a skunk, and because he was startled, he sprayed them. Give me a word to describe the skunk.
Hune says black and white, Israel, smelly. Somebody else says black, gray and white, dirty.
Very good. Helping us to imagine the skunk is going to help us to imagine the conflict, especially if you describe the skunk as something nasty and dirty. That even makes the conflict worse. And so description helps to bring out your conflict. Could you find another word that she could have described?
She says dirt. Winqual says wet. Damp.
Very good. So now let's look at it. If Spot is covered in rich soil, then when you're bringing out the conflict, rich soil sounds like it's something good. And so if you want to portray the soil as something good, that's fine. But if you want to bring out conflict, then you want the soil to not be something good. So the word wet soil or stink-smelling soil or words like that help to bring out conflict. So your choice of words, the words you use, can bring out the conflict, or it can bring out additional devices in your writing. So this is an example of a character versus nature conflict. So once, congratulations again. You to first tell yourself what type of conflict is it? Is it internal? Is it external? And if it is external, is it character versus character? Is it character versus nature? Or is it character versus society? Those are the 5 words. So we peeked into the huge bushes. It was Sally. She was holding my precious sweetheart. Sally was my bully. She was so annoying. I can't believe we used to be best friends. Spot was bruised and looked sad as Sally held him by only 1 foot. Sally was mistreating my puppy. I grabbed my precious puppy from Sally and ran. She was right on our tails. I slammed the door on Sally and it hit her in the face. Oh my goodness. A very interesting story. A very interesting climax. And a good job to Adriana. Adriana, let's clap for her. Very good. Did Adriana say which island she's coming from? Is she here today?
No, it seems as if she's not here.
Okay, so looking at this conflict, what type of conflict is that? Now, I think she did a good job including description in her writing. Let's look at it and see if she could have included anything else. And we're going to go through it again. We peeked into the huge bushes. Do you see any description in that sentence? We peeked into the huge bushes.
Huge, huge.
Very good. Now, it was Sally. Any description in that sentence?
No.
So she
Yes,
should
and
have,
no.
very good. She should have described Sally. She should have used some words to describe Sally so that we could imagine a bully. And if we can imagine a bully, it strengthens the conflict. So can you give me some words to describe Sally?
Mean.
Very good. So we can say
Evil.
evil. We can so saying it was evil Sally. That makes the story more intense and it really brings out the conflict. So she was holding my precious sweetheart. Any description in there?
Okay, the answers from the last question are coming in. Yes, Miana says yes, there are descriptions there. Sweetheart, precious.
Very good. So she did a very good job in this sentence describing the puppy. And so we get an impression that the puppy is valuable. When you describe things, it really brings out the conflict. Okay? Sally was my bully. She was so annoying. Any description now?
Annoying.
Very
Yeah.
good. So, very good. So we have the word annoying, but I think that she still could have done a better job describing Sally physically, how Sally looks, and using some words before bully. Was my evil bully, okay? I can't believe we used to be best friends. That's a good sentence, okay? Spot was bruised and looked sad as Sally held him only by 1 foot. Anything interesting or good in that sentence? Spot was bruised and looked sad as Sally held him by 1 foot. What do you like in that sentence?
Bruised. Delia says bruised. Riori says bruised. And sad.
Very good. So she has several things that are good going on here. She's using the word bruised. She's using the word sad. And I like that held by 1 foot because now all those words together is describing how she's holding. Could you imagine holding, and I'm not going to do that to Mr. Brown, but could you imagine someone holding you upside down by 1 foot? I'm sure that's not going to be a good feeling. So in Adriana's piece, she has a lot of interesting description, which is excellent, okay? Sally was mistreating my puppy. Using the word my, not just saying the mistreating Dot, but saying my puppy, really helped as well to bring out the conflict. I grabbed my precious puppy from Sally and ran. I grabbed my precious puppy.
Yes, Adriana says viciously grabbed.
Viciously grabbed. Okay, so now you have a clear understanding how you can include description in your work to bring out your conflict or word choice. She was right on our tails. I slammed the door on Sally and it hit her in the face. Okay, anything interesting in there? She was right on our tails. I slammed the door on Sally and it hit her in the face. Very good. Is there anything that she could have included in there to make her write more interesting? Let's look at the word face. Did she describe Sally's face? What words could we have included to describe her face? What could we have put before face?
Okay. Winkwell says ugly. Oval face. Evil Jernique says Ashley says furiously slammed. Okay, they're talking about slammed now, but they are saying angered and big and ugly for face. Long nose face.
Okay, so
Squared face.
remember all of those description words that Miss Brown taught you about how to describe someone's face? You don't want to forget that. So when you're describing a character, you want to bring that out. So long nose face is very interesting. And then you can even say dog face, monkey face, okay? And I love the way you use words before the word slammed. What are some of the words they were using before slammed? I think you said viciously slammed. Okay, so if Adriana did that, it would take her writing to the next level. And remember, when your conflict is exciting, your teachers are going to be excited to read your work. Okay, and you were correct in saying this was a character versus character writing. So this is an example of character versus nature. So this is the conclusion. What is conflict? What did you learn today? What is conflict?
Okay, so the answers are coming in. Alyssa Bell wants to do it next class. Carrie, Miss Saunders is saying it's a problem. It's a conflict. A conflict is a problem or when people disagree.
Very good. What is internal conflict? What is internal conflict?
Okay, the answers are coming in. In the meantime, when Felicia says Lorenzo's own sounds good. Okay, the answers are coming in now. A problem on the inside. A struggle in the character's head.
Very good. What is external conflict?
External conflict is a problem outside, Letitia says.
What are 3 types of external conflicts? And I'll give you, to help you along, the rain. What type of conflict is that? The rain.
That's nature. Character versus nature.
I don't like you because you came from Timbuktu. I don't like you because you came from Timbuktu. Nobody in the entire Bahamas likes you because you came from Timbuktu. We all
Character. Bernie.
Character versus what?
Okay, they're saying character versus society, character versus character.
Very good. And the last one is, we did nature. Oh, the last one is Mr. Brown keeps stealing my honey. What type of conflict is external conflict is that? Mr. Brown keeps stealing my honey. I don't like that. Me and Mr. Brown, we're soon going to fight on TV. You see, if he keeps stealing sorry, Mr. Brown. If he keeps stealing my honey, it's not going to work. What type of external conflict?
Character versus character.
Excellent. Now, which type of conflict is your favorite? What is your favorite type of conflict? Of all of these, which one do you think is the most interesting? Is it nature? Is it character versus character? Is it character versus society? Or internal conflicts?
Most of them love character versus character.
Very good. And that is the most popular one because children like to see fights, and that's the thing that is the most popular type of conflict in all of your stories. But I challenge you to try and create a different type of conflict. Okay? And your homework is very interesting. We want you to review all the topics you learned for the last 2 weeks and prepare for Fun Friday. On Friday, we're gonna play some games and we're gonna test you on all that we have taught you, not only for this week, but from the week before when we first started teaching. So we want you to go and look through all of the videos and take your time and watch the past videos or look back at your notes and study. What is Fun Friday? On Friday, you will be tested on all of your topics you were taught by your language teachers. It will be a fantastic day. Okay, and that is the end of the lesson.